Welcome back. We're up to Chagigah, page 9b. We're up to where the Gemara is now going to go back to what we have learned in the Mishna, and we're going to elaborate on that. Interesting that what we're going into is the Gemara is going to show you how meticulous each word that the Gemara uses to make sure that it actually fits to what the meaning is. Because even on that, there's arguments with this between the sages and different opinions as to what this word could mean. We have seen it in the Mishnah already, but the Gemara is going to elaborate on it even more. So we learned in the Mishnah, over her regel, if the holiday has passed, lo chag, and for whatever reason that person did not bring his offering, or maybe didn't go up to the temple, to the Beit HaMikdash, he's not obligated to fulfill it anymore. So this is not like, oh, you're free to go now. No, it means that you cannot fulfill it anymore. Because if you're not obligated to fulfill it anymore, it's something that you have lost. And this is what we said, this is what the Mishnah says, that this is something that got crooked, that cannot be fixed. The chasuran, the chesran, it's something that's missing, and it cannot be counted anymore. Basically, you missed it, you can't do it anymore. Maybe next time. So now the Gemara comes, the Gemara says, Umalai bar hai lehilo. So bar hai says to Hillel, hai lehimunois, to be counted, lehimulois mi boyelai. The Mishnah says it's something that's missing that cannot be counted. You're using a term of counted. You shouldn't be saying counted. It should be saying it's missing and cannot be filled in. Because when it's missing, you fill it in afterwards. That's really more in Yiddish we say pasik. It's a more appropriate word that would fit in here. So he says, since the Mishnah used lehimunos to be counted, it doesn't really mean this. It means something else. What does it mean? Someone that his friends have counted them together, they're going to go and do a mitzvah together, and he did not count himself in. He did not include himself as to go along and to do the mitzvah together with them. That's a number that cannot be counted anymore, because he's not being counted within that number of doing that good deed, doing that mitzvah. So this is the first place where we see, and we're going to see many more different opinions, but this is where the first place we see this particular in the term of the word being used to be counted. To be counted doesn't mean to be filled in. So it's got to be something different, a different type of thing that cannot be counted anymore. That's for a good deed that you weren't counting yourself in. And the Gemara is going to bring proof that, yeah, that's really what it means. Tanya Namarocha, we have also learned that this term is being used this way. When there is something that's been crooked that you cannot fix, someone who has missed the time of reading Krishma in the morning, or Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis, or to read Krishma in the time in the evening, and the time where you have to read it, and therefore you can't fix it anymore because the time has passed. Or someone else, Shebittel Tfilis Shel Shachris at Tfilis Shel Arvis, someone who didn't daven Shachris or didn't daven Arvis, Marav, the evening prayer, that's something that you cannot fill in anymore. The time has passed. And the second part, when there's something missing that cannot be counted, that's when your friends have counted themselves together to go do a good deed, to go do a mitzvah, and he did not count himself in with them. Therefore, the word to be counted is more appropriate here, because you did not get yourself included in that to be counted for. So since we learned something now from Bar Hai that he said to Hillel, the Gemara is going to deviate a little bit away from what we've been talking here about another thing that Bar Hai said to Hillel. Umalai Bar Hai lehillel. So another thing that we learned, Bar Hai said to Hillel. Ma'adachsif, what is the meaning when we learn in the Pusik where it says, V'shachtam, I'm going to sit down, Re'isan, and I'm going to see, Bain Tzadik LeRusha, and I'm going to differentiate between someone who's a Tzadik and someone who's a Rusha. Someone who's righteous and someone who's wicked. Bain Oivdei Elekem, between those who serve Hashem, La'ar Lo Yavudai, and between those that don't serve Hashem. So the Pusik seems to be repeating itself. It starts off by saying between a tzaddik and a rosha, which means a righteous and a wicked person. And then it also says between someone who serves Hashem and someone who doesn't serve Hashem. So he asks, Hana tzaddik, Hana oivdei elekim, Hana rosha, Hana lo yavda. So that who is a tzaddik, he is the one who serves Hashem. And the person who is wicked, he's the one who doesn't serve Hashem. Why would the Pusik repeat itself? No, he says like this. Avudai, v'lo yavudai, someone who serves Hashem, and someone who doesn't serve Hashem, both of them are considered righteous. They're both considered tzaddikim. So why is one called serving and called not serving? And it's not to compare you cannot compare someone who learns something 100 times to versus someone who's learning something for 101 times. Someone who learns something 101 times, he's called serving Hashem. Someone who's learning it only 100 times, he's called not serving Hashem. But they're both righteous people. And the Gemara doesn't fit well. So he asks him, because of that one time, I mean, we're not talking someone learning one and someone not learning at all. We're talking someone learning it 100 times versus someone learning it 101 times. So because of that one time he didn't learn more, you call him that he's not a servant of Hashem, even though he's a righteous person? So he says, he answers, and yes, and I can even show you that in the world you can see the same thing. He says, go out to the mark, and you see the place where you rent a taxi, where you rent someone to drive you. They say, Asuru parsa, to go to the distance, I don't know how much a parsa is, but 10 parsa, you can go for onesies. The second you go more than 10 parsa, if you go 11 parsa, betrizes, now you have to pay already tuzes. You know, like the taxis in the city, for in the city, they have one flat fee. But the second you step out of the city, now the price goes by mile, by hour, whatever. So you can see the same thing, that there is such a thing that they can both be righteous per people, but if you do it 100 times, you're not considered serving Hashem. Doing it 101 times, now you're considered serving Hashem. So, what are we going to do with this? I would pause here and ask questions. If you have any questions, but you know what? I have lots of questions. So let's iron this out a little bit. Maybe we can soften it. So we know, number one, we know that Chazal teach us in other places that for someone to make sure they never forget something, they have to study it 101 times. Not just 100, 101. That's the secret number as to when you have registered it and engraved it into your brain that you won't forget it forever. So there is something in Chazal between 100 and 101. Now, am I saying that someone who only learns 100 times, is it now righteous to say that he's not serving Hashem? I don't know. But for that, I want to go over to another thing where we can just make sense of it, where we can maybe get our feelings onto this and to say, okay, it makes sense. When someone learns and he's counting how many times he learns, and he has a goal, I'm going to do this 100 times. You know, there's a good feeling when you reach that 100 times. I've done it. I did it. I finished. You can very easily say that he did it for himself. He wanted to achieve 100. But someone goes on after 100. He's not counting. I'll do it another time. Then you see he's not doing it for his pleasure because he's achieved 100. He's doing this truly because it's the mitzvah and he's serving Hashem. So I'm not saying this is what the Gemara is saying. I'm just saying it in a way that we can make sense of it. We can connect and relate to it, saying, if you're doing it with a count, that you want to reach that count and then you stop, then you're basically done it for yourself. You wanted to achieve it. When you do it without a count, or you go beyond that number, you do it one more time afterwards, even though it's a significant number, and that one more time is going to make it that you won't forget it. All that is nice. But you go on that one more time when you're not counting anymore. You're past your 100 mark. And now we can say for sure he is serving Hashem. He's not doing this for his own pleasure. So I want to share a story. There was once one of the Gedolim of the current generation, I think Chaim Kanievsky. He once he spoke to someone, and that person told him that I have to put l'chaim today. I finished Shas. So I finished all of Shas, all of Talmud Bavli. I want to make a l'chaim. So he told him back, if I would drink l'chaim every time I finish Shas, I would be a drunkie on the street. So he goes, that's what he told for the Godel maybe. And the Godel was like, oh, no, don't make it so much. I'm only finishing now the second time, 101 times of Shas. Okay? So he's saying, no, not that many times. Just the second time, 101. So he's finishing now 202 times Shas. And that wasn't that big deal. So I guess he was counting. And it's okay to count. I say another story relevant to this, saying that people who finish Shas has something to be happy about. And it's okay. So there was once this very rich person, I think also with Chaim Kanievsky, I don't remember, was a very rich person. He had multiple houses, many nice cars, a private plane, like very, very rich. He came into this Gadol, this big person, and he told them that I'm very afraid that people are jealous of me. And I'm afraid that I'm so rich and people will be jealous of me. They would cause what we call an ayin hara, which is a bad eye. And I'm afraid of it. Can you help me? So Chaim Kanievsky looks at him and asks him, you're afraid people are jealous of you? Have you finished Shas? He asked him. He goes, no. Have you finished half of Shas? He goes, no. Have you finished one Masechta? And he goes, no. So he asks him, so what are you afraid people will be jealous of you? You're afraid people will be jealous of you for your money? Really? You never saw poor. You don't know what's good. So from this story, we see that, yes, when someone finished Shas, it does feel good. And he could have concerns that people would be jealous of him, that, wow, you achieved something. You have done something. So it's not bad to feel good. You're allowed to feel good. But the point here, what I'm trying to bring out, is that when you do it one more time, besides that milestone, then you really break it through for Hashem. You say, it's not just done for me. Okay. Any questions?
I think it's more of a, I'm not sure because this is really like a complex topic. You could ask 1,000 questions on it, but it feels like more of a, you have to do it because you you want to do it, and you want to make sure that you understood. So that's why now they say do it 100%, but no, you do it 101%. This way you're making sure that you understand. You know what I mean?
You went
But
above
then
100.
again, but who's counting, right? I mean, why would you count? I mean, when you do something good and we're trying to achieve for something of doing something good or right, for the sake of the order of Hashem, why count? If you think about it, right? Why
Yep.
count?
Yep.
You just do it. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. There's certainly ways of saying, hey, why count? But this is not something that happens in a day. It's something as a lifetime of achievement. Even if you learn a page a day, it takes 7 years, over 7 years to finish Talmud Bavli. So people that finish it every year, they have to learn at least 7 pages a day. So
I mean, I personally jealous of people who have even patience and time to sit down and read it and learn it.
Very well.
I'm jealous of that because
yes,
I
very well said.
I can't even imagine sit down and drop everything and sit down and learn. I can't even imagine this. Maybe one day in my life.
Yep. Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing though, right?
Amazing is not the word to express.
Yes, so now we're moving to another topic, another saying about Bar Hai Hai. Bar Hai means the son of Hai Hai. We don't see his name, we just see his name. He's the son of Hai Hai. So Umalai Eliyui le Bar Hai Hai. Eliyui said this to Bar Hai Hai. The Amrilai, and there are some who say that this wasn't really to Bar Hai Hai, this was to Reb Loser. Okay. So he says, what's the meaning of this phrase where it says, Hinai tzeraftichu? What does tzeraftichu mean? Let me see if I can get it here translated. I don't know. Lo bekusef bechartich bechir oni. I want to see, where is this phrase? Hinai tzeraftichu. Tanach. Hinai tzeraftichu. They have translation. See, I refine you, but not as silver. I test you in the furnace of affliction. So that's the translation here that I found on Safaria. So he's asking, what does it mean? So coming back here, he says, Melamed, it comes to teach us, Hashem searched. He went through all good midas. What does midas mean? Midas means character traits or measurements. Midas means as in a measurement because people's character traits should be measured. Not to get too angry, not to be too happy, not to be too sad, not to be too lazy, not to be too fast. People have to balance themselves with all of their character traits. So Hashem went through all of them, and he did not find something as good for the Yidden. He did not find Elu Aniyas. The best thing for the Yidden is to be poor. So Hashem found that the best thing for a Yid is to be poor. And we will come back, we'll try to explain this later, soon. Umar Shmuel, and Shmuel said on this, Rabbi Yosef said, Hana da Amre Inche, this is what people say, Yua an Yisali Hiduai, that it's good being poor for a Jew, Kibarzu Simuku Lasisyu Chivuru. Like a red leather strapped onto a white horse. I believe I've translated this correctly. Checking my Gemara here. Yes, a red leather saddle that's been tied onto a white horse. It stands out so nice and it's beautiful. That's how nice it is for the Yidden, for the Jew, to be poor. So it doesn't sound like a pleasant message here. What are we getting here? So I want to say this. He's comparing it to something very funny too, like to a saddle that looks beautiful, like a red leather saddle that goes onto a white horse. So just like that saddle on the horse isn't comfortable for the horse either. It's not pleasant for the horse. That's where I'm going with this. The same as being poor and a Yid needs more money because everything is way more expensive. But yet being poor is good for him. You know why? Because being rich is way harder than being poor. When you can tell yourself, I can't afford something, is easier to say than, I can't do that because I can afford it, but I can't do it because it's not permissible, or it's not the best thing for me. It's way harder when you have lots of money and to stop yourself from doing things. Then you don't have the money and you have to stay within boundaries. I can only live within my budget. I can only live within my humble lifestyle versus someone who's very rich. So the saddle doesn't make the horse comfortable. It makes him work, but it looks nice on him. The same as the poor on the Yid. It's not comfortable, but it's nice for the Yid because it saves him, it helps him in achieving his life. Again, I'm just following our tradition of taking something out. What do we make out of it? What does it mean? What's my message taking away from this little piece of Gemara? If you want to chime in or say anything, just go ahead. Okay. So now we're coming back to what we learned in the Mishnah. We're done with these different topics of derashah, and we're coming back to what we learned in the Mishnah. Reb Shimon ben Manasseh said, you remember we learned in the Mishnah that something that's crooked cannot be fixed. As to what that means, the Mishnah itself told us that it means that you missed Yom Tov, you missed the holiday, and you didn't bring your offerings. We have learned another opinion that says it means that you missed reading Krishna on time in the evening or in the morning, or you missed the prayer in the time when it was meant to be said. He is saying something else. What's something that's crooked that cannot be corrected? Someone who is married, he lives with someone not married. He lives with someone who he's not allowed to live with, and therefore a child is born. And that child is considered a bastard, which is not allowed to marry a Yid. That's something you cannot fix. Not the kid's fault, but it's something that happened here and cannot be fixed. So the Gemara asks, Hoilet, if a child was born and that's when it's a problem that cannot be fixed. Loi Hoilet, and if nobody was born, no kid was produced, Loi, then it's not a problem. It's a problem that cannot be fixed just for the fact that he lived with someone that he shouldn't have been living with. So the Gemara answers that there are differences. The Gemara still with the kasha, with the question. For Tanya, we have learned that Shimon ben Manasseh says, going with Udam, if a person steals, he can return what he stole, and it's fixed. The problem has been resolved. Gozel Udam, if someone steals, but that's a steal with a robbery, openly, not just hidden stealing. He can come back and return what he stole, and again, it's fixed. If somebody lives with another woman that is married to someone, and now that woman is forbidden from going back to her husband because she lived with someone else, Nitrat min ha'olam v'hu lachlai. He just destroyed her world and he moved on and he goes on. So that's a bad thing. So how can you tell me only if there is a child born, only then it's a problem? It's even a problem when that married wife cannot go back to her husband because she lived with someone. So the Gemara is not answering yet. The Gemara is jumping into something here. Either it's part of this Mishna that we still learned, or it's just something that comes in here within the same topic. Reb Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Ein Omer, Reb Shimon ben Yochai, Reb Shimon the son of Yochai says, Ein Omer, a person would not say, Bakri Gummo, Bakri Chazer. A person would not say, let me go check this Gummo. What's a Gummo? Gummo is a donkey. Gummo is a donkey? No. Gummo is a donkey. Bakr Chazer. Chazer is a pig. A person would not say, let me go check out this donkey if I can bring it for an offering, if it doesn't have any blemishes on it. He only says, Eilu Bakri Tle. Only a sheep, you would say, let me check. Why? Because you can't bring, it's not a kosher animal, a pig. A donkey is not a kosher animal. So you're not going to say, let me go check if this is good to bring for an offering. So he says the same thing here. What are we doing? We're not talking of someone who's just going and cause trouble, someone who's not kosher to begin with. We're talking of someone who's a kosher person. He's usually righteous. And now he's done a trouble. What's that person? That's someone who sits and learns, but now he went off. He stopped learning. He stopped living a life of Torah. That's something that got crooked, that you can't fix it. Because we're not talking of someone who's always crooked. We're talking of someone who was righteous and then became crooked. The Behida ben Lukish says, every person who sits, every student that studies Torah, and he goes away, on him the Pusik would say, just like a bird gets ripped out of its nest, the same is with this person. He's in trouble. He got ripped out of his nest, up to the place where he belongs. And we see another phrase, what blemish, what troubles did you fathers found in me that they distance themselves from me? So these are all different phrases that we see on this topic for someone who has gone off the way of Torah. But now we're back to the question, how can you tell me only if a kid was born, that's when it's something that cannot be fixed? Even when a kid wasn't born, that wife is now forbidden from going back to her husband, which is a trouble that cannot be fixed. So the Gemara answers, Lo kasha. It's not a question, because there's different types of places where you're not allowed to be with that woman, and in different areas that woman or the girl doesn't get forbidden from other people. So kan b'choyser peniya. So when you're talking about your daughter, your sister that isn't married, it's only trouble if a kid is born. If a kid wasn't born, then you haven't forbidden her from going to anyone. Kan ba'aisha says, here we're talking of someone who's married. If a man lives with a woman that is married to another man, then of course, even if there's no kid born, you've already caused a trouble that cannot be fixed. The Iboy Simon, then the Gemara can bring another example as to why only if a child is born, that's when there's something that cannot be fixed. They're both considered to a married woman. And it's still not a question. Now we're going over to page 10a. Where we say that nothing happens only if a child is born, is ba'oinus, when he forces her. Berutzen, when she wants. So when she wants, she gets forbidden from going back to her husband. So even if no kid was born, something was already done. And then if she's being forced, ba'oinus, then she's not getting forbidden from going back to her husband. So only if a kid is born, that's when there's trouble that we can't fix here. The Gemara continues. The Gemara says there's another scenario. Boy Simon, I can bring you another scenario. Both of these would talk about a married woman, and both of these is when she's been forced. And it's not a question. Why? Kan ba'aishas koyim and kan ba'aishas yisrael. A regular Yid, if his wife is being forced to live with someone else, then that wife is still permitted to come back to live with her husband. But a kohen, not. If that person is a kohen and his wife is being forced to live with someone else, that kohen is not allowed to go back and live with that wife. So now the Gemara is continuing to the end of that pusing, of that phrase, which means for those who go out and come back, there's no peace. And I want to bring up that pusing again here. I can find it in Tanakh, in Zechariah. So why is this Gemara jumping into this topic? Because now we're talking about someone who's been a Talmid Chacham, someone who has been learning and he's went away from his learning. He went away from living a life of Torah. That's something that cannot be fixed because of the time that was lost. The Gemara is now saying that even someone who has stopped learning the written Torah and he starts learning the oral Torah, or even someone who's learning the oral Torah, learning Mishna, and now he's going to learn Gemara, or the other way, he learned Gemara and he starts learning Mishna, he's also not having peace. He's also having trouble. This is where we're learning. Someone who goes and comes, he doesn't have peace. What does it mean? Rav says, once a person goes away from learning the actual halacha, the actual law as to what to do, and he goes back and he reads the source, the pusik, the phrases in the Torah, he doesn't have peace anymore. Why? Because he already has trouble in translating it and understanding it. And the same thing, Shmuel says, someone learns the Gemara and he goes back to only reading the Mishnah, then he's going to have lots of trouble not understanding it, because the Gemara is elaborating on the Mishnah, teaches us how to work with the Mishnah. So therefore, if someone goes back, he goes up a level, it's hard on them. It's already a trouble. He doesn't have peace. Rabbi Yochanan says, even if you go from one Masechta to another Masechta, or maybe from one yeshiva to another yeshiva, it's already trouble. Because the person's mind, each Masechta, has its topics, its things that it's going for, and he's already switching to something else. It's already a strain on him. It's already hurting with the peace. So we're going to pause here. I'm up to the Mishnah on page 10a. Let me just bookmark this place. Good. Thank you so much. Until next time.